Almost every virus within Resident Evil can be tracked back to a singular source, the Progenitor Virus. But the Progenitor itself is not capable of the destructive mutations found throughout the series. In fact, the Progenitor simply kills those infected with a near 100% mortality rate. It was the twisted work of the Umbrella researchers that created the monsters we've come to fear. Looking for money to fund his research into creating his perfect world, Oswell Spencer would create Umbrella Pharmaceuticals and would enter into a contract with the US government. This would have the government provide research funds in exchange for bioweapons made from the Progenitor Virus. For the virus to be considered a complete success as a weapon, it would have to be highly contagious and extremely lethal. But the Progenitor presented a problem. It could only be spread through direct contact and would kill its host too quickly, meaning the virus would not spread efficiently. In an attempt to make up for this flaw, Umbrella would develop the Tyrant Virus, or T-Virus, from the Progenitor, but a complete strain would not be developed until James Marcus would splice leech DNA into the virus in 1977. After this discovery, Spencer had Marcus's lab shut down and had Albert Wesker and William Birkin moved to the Arclay facility. Wesker and Birkin would bring along stolen samples of Marcus's completed virus strain, and following Marcus's example, Birkin would splice genes from the newly discovered Ebola virus into the T-Virus. This alteration guaranteed that a human infection would result in zombification, essentially killing the victim and slowly rotting their body, but leaving the brain just alive enough to perform basic functions and have an insatiable desire to feed. But it was soon discovered that around 10% of the population would be immune to the T-Virus, and this was unacceptable to Spencer and Birkin. So research into bioorganic weapons, or BOWs, began. Likely the first BOW to be created was Marcus's plague crawlers. Created around 1978 by bonding multiple insect species' DNA with the earliest strain of the T-Virus, the plague crawlers proved that BOWs could be made, but were deemed a failure in practical use due to their lack of intelligence and control. But Marcus would continue his experiments and would create lurkers soon after. By injecting frogs with the T-Virus, Marcus was able to increase their size and strength, but similar to the plague crawlers, with no increase in intelligence, they were deemed too dangerous to their owners and as such, a failure. Attempting to solve the intelligence problem, Marcus would move on to primates he would name Eliminators. But unfortunately, the primates suffered a severe loss in intelligence and really only increased in their aggressiveness, making this project a failure as well. Spencer's Arclay facility would be creating early BOWs with similar results to Marcus's projects. Beginning simply, Spencer's research would inject a great white shark with the virus, but with little change in strength and intelligence and still requiring a water-based life. This Neptune project, as it was called, was deemed a failure. The next project would be viewed marginally better. By injecting spiders with the T-Virus, the web spinners would be created. Basically, gargantuan spiders that, despite the name, were unable to create webs, although a particularly large one would mutate later and gain the ability to do so. But with their low intelligence, the web spinners were uncontrollable and deemed too dangerous to their owners and would ultimately be labeled a failure. In an attempt to replace the web spinner project, the Chimera project would begin. Umbrella would begin by abducting homeless women and forcibly impregnating them with embryos that had been modified by grafting insect DNA into them. Although multiple insect types were used, it was the fly that Umbrella worked on the most. But, due to many flaws, the project was dropped before any major advancements could be made. With the virus able to infect plant life as well, a few projects based around plants would begin, the most successful being Plant 42. Named after the location it was grown in, Point 42 in the dormitory, Plant 42 was created by a researcher named Henry Stark. Growing its roots through the wood and concrete of the floor, Plant 42 was able to get water from the aqua ring below. Eventually gaining the ability to move its vines around, the plant quickly took over a room of the dormitory. And Being deemed too dangerous to be used, several researchers tried to destroy the plant, but were killed in the process. But the most successful of the early projects would be the Cerberus project, with a low cost point and a high level of efficiency. Made by injecting Doberman dogs with the T virus, these animals had a large increase in their agility, endurance, and aggressiveness, all the while retaining their ability to hunt in packs. And although other dogs would show up in the games, these were not part of the Cerberus project and were usually just unfortunate dogs with accidental infections. Undeterred by their failures, and spurred on by the success of the Cerberus, Umbrella would continue into even more deranged tests and would see an accidental success, all while the third founder, Ashford, worked on his own projects. But we'll take a look at those another time.